It wasn't the steam from the scalding coffee that burned the most. It was the betrayal. The Gilded Bean was supposed to be a place of quiet celebration, but in seconds, it became a war zone. A 7 months pregnant woman, a silk dress, and a scream that cut through the morning chatter. The coffee, black and bitter, was a weapon. The mistress, Chloe, held the empty cup with a smirk, not knowing her entire future was being decided by a single, quiet observer in the corner. In one instant, a life of secrets, lies, and ambition came crashing down, all because one woman threw her coffee and the wrong person saw her do it. The bell above the door of the Gilded Bean tinkled a cheerful, ironic little tune. Eleanor Vance, 7 months pregnant and radiant, didn't look up. She was too busy tracing the outline of her swollen belly, a small, contented smile on her face. The baby was kicking, a rapid thump, thump, thump against her ribs, as if impatient for the world. "Easy, little one," she murmured, sipping her decaf latte. "Your father will be here soon." Her father, Arthur Vance, the man who was, by all accounts, the city's golden boy. He was handsome, charismatic, and the front-runner in the upcoming city council election. His campaign slogan, "A man of family, a man of integrity," was plastered on every bus and billboard. And Eleanor, his beautiful, pregnant wife, was the perfect accessory. She loved him, desperately, even if, these past few months, he'd been distant. Campaign stress, he'd call it, kissing her forehead, before rushing off to another late-night strategy meeting. The bell tinkled again. This time a wave of perfume, sharp and expensive, preceded the arrival. It was a scent Eleanor recognized but couldn't place. It smelled like Arthur's suits after a long day. A woman strode to the counter, her heels clicking an angry rhythm on the tile. She was young, stunning in a way that was all sharp angles and calculated effort. Her name was Chloe Jenkins, though Eleanor didn't know that yet. Eleanor watched her, a prickle of unease working its way up her spine. The woman, Chloe, paid for a large black coffee, her movements jerky and impatient. Then, instead of leaving, she turned. Her eyes scanned the room and locked onto Eleanor. It was a look of such pure, unadulterated hatred that Eleanor physically recoiled. Chloe began to walk toward her, not hesitantly, but with the predatory confidence of a shark. "You're Eleanor," she stated. It wasn't a question. Yes, I'm sorry. Do I know you?" Chloe let out a laugh, a sound like breaking glass. "You know me. Or at least you know my work. You've been sleeping in my bed for far too long." The cafe, which had been buzzing with morning chatter, slowly quieted. The barista froze, milk steamer in hand. I don't understand," Eleanor stammered, her hand flying to her chest. "Let me make it clear for you." Chloe leaned in, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper, yet loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "Arthur. My Arthur. He's mine. This whole marriage, this baby." She sneered at Eleanor's stomach. "It's a sham. He's leaving you. He was supposed to tell you last night." Eleanor's world tilted. The baby gave a violent kick, a jolt of shared panic. "No," Eleanor whispered, shaking her head. "No, you're lying. Arthur loves me. He's on his way to meet me right now." "Is he?" Chloe's eyes glittered. "He's not meeting you, Eleanor. He's at my condo, the one he pays for, probably sleeping off the night we had." She was an actress, and this was her big scene. She wanted to wound, to destroy. "Get away from me," Eleanor said, her voice gaining a fraction of strength. She tried to stand, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Oh, you're not going anywhere." Chloe's face twisted. "You think you can just sit here, Playing the perfect little wife, stealing my future. You stole my life. You're insane, Eleanor whispered, tears welling. No, Chloe said, her voice dangerously calm. I'm just the woman who's not going to let a brood mare get in her way. And then, in one swift, vicious movement, Chloe Jenkins picked up the large black coffee she had just been served. It was scalding hot, steam still rising from the lid she'd popped off. She threw it. The dark, burning liquid arced through the air and hit Eleanor square in the chest. Eleanor's scream was primal. It was a sound of agony, not just from the searing, immediate pain of the hot coffee on her skin, but from the shattering of her entire life. The liquid soaked her white maternity blouse, clinging, burning, turning her skin a horrifying, blistering red. She clutched her belly, terrified for her child. "He's mine!" Chloe shrieked, as if sealing the assault with a curse. The cafe erupted. People shouted. A man yelled to call 911. The barista vaulted the counter. But in the back corner booth, a woman who had been hidden behind the Financial Times slowly lowered her newspaper. She was an older woman, impeccably dressed in a grey Chanel suit, her silver hair pulled into a severe bun. Her face was a mask of cold fury. She had watched the entire exchange, her eyes missing nothing. She saw the assault. She saw Chloe's triumphant smirk. She saw Eleanor's terror. This was Judge Evelyn Reed. She was not just a judge. She was the judge, and more importantly, she was the chairwoman of the City Ethics Board, and most critically, the founder and head of the highly influential and deeply feared Women's Council. And she was the one person Arthur Vance needed to impress above all others to win his election. Judge Reed quietly picked up her phone. She didn't call the police. They were already on their way. She called her private investigator. "Marcus," she said, her voice like ice. "Start a file. Arthur Vance, and a woman named Chloe Jenkins. I want everything. And I mean everything." She hung up, her eyes fixed on the scene. The mistress had just thrown hot coffee on a pregnant woman. What she didn't know was that she had also just ended a man's career and her own future, all in front of the one person who held all the cards. The paramedics were gentle, cutting away the ruined, coffee-soaked fabric of Eleanor's blouse. The pain was a living thing, a fire that licked at her chest and stomach, but it was nothing compared to the ice-cold terror gripping her heart. "My baby," she wept as they loaded her onto the gurney. "Is my baby okay? Please." "Your vitals are stable, Mum, and the baby's heartbeat is strong," the young paramedic, a man named Ben, tried to reassure her. "The liquid didn't seem to go below your navel, but the shock, we have to get you to St. Jude's immediately." The ride was a blur of sirens and sobs. She had been diagnosed with second-degree burns across her chest and upper abdomen. The doctors at the ER were grim-faced as they applied sterile dressings and administered a painkiller that was safe for the pregnancy. "You're lucky, Mrs. Vance," the attending physician, Dr. Sarah Miller, told her. Her voice kind but firm, a few inches lower, and this could have been a very different conversation. "The baby is stressed but secure. You, however, need rest and zero, and I mean zero, emotional distress." Emotional distress. The words were a bitter joke. Eleanor felt as if her entire emotional landscape had been carpet-bombed. And then he arrived. Arthur Vance burst through the curtain of her cubicle, his $1,000 suit immaculate, his hair perfectly coiffed, but his face was a mask of thunder. Eleanor's heart, despite everything, gave a pathetic little leap. "Arthur! Oh, Arthur!" She expected him to rush to her side, to hold her hand, to ask about the baby. He did not. He stopped 3 feet from her bed, his nostrils flaring. He didn't look at her burns. He looked at his phone. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he hissed, his voice low and dangerous. Eleanor's blood ran cold, colder than the ice packs on her burns. What I've done? Arthur, she attacked me. A woman named Chloe. She said, "I don't care what she said," Arthur snapped, finally looking at her. His eyes were not filled with concern. They were filled with rage. "I'm getting calls from everyone. The Gazette, the Tribune, my campaign manager. Mistress throws coffee on Vance's pregnant wife. It's everywhere, Eleanor." The room spun. He wasn't worried about her. He wasn't worried about their child. He was worried about the headlines. You knew her," Eleanor whispered, the terrible truth settling on her like a shroud. "Chloe Jenkins. It's true, everything she said." Arthur had the decency to look away, but only for a second. "It's complicated. She's unstable, clearly. I was handling it, and then you just had to go and make a public scene." I made a scene?" Eleanor's voice was barely audible. She felt the stitches of her world tearing apart. "Arthur, she threw boiling coffee on me. I'm pregnant. And you couldn't just be quiet. Take it?" he shot back. "Now my entire campaign, everything we've worked for, is in jeopardy because you couldn't control a simple situation. My polls, Eleanor, they're going to tank." He began to pace the small cubicle like a caged animal. "We need to fix this. We're releasing a statement. A deeply troubled woman. A random act of violence. You will back me on this. You will say you didn't know her. She was incoherent. You're fine. The baby's fine." "But I'm not fine," Eleanor cried, the tears a new source of pain as they rolled into her burns. "And she wasn't random. She knew my name. She knew yours. She said you were at her condo, that you were leaving me." Arthur's hand flew up, and for a heart-stopping second, Eleanor thought he was going to hit her. He didn't. He pointed a finger at her. "You will stop talking. Right now. You will do exactly as I say. You will smile for the cameras when we leave this hospital. You will hold my hand, and you will say this was a tragic misunderstanding. We are a family. We are a team. Do you understand me, Eleanor? This is bigger than your feelings." He was a stranger. The man she loved, the man whose child she was carrying, was gone. In his place was this monster. "I understand," she whispered, the fight draining out of her. "Good." He smoothed his tie, his politician's mask slipping back into place. "I'll go talk to the hospital administrator. Make sure this stays contained." He left. The curtain swished shut, leaving Eleanor alone in the sterile silence, the rhythmic beep of the fetal heart monitor, the only proof that her life wasn't completely over. She had come to the hospital with one set of burns. She was leaving with 1,000 more, inflicted not by coffee, but by the man who had sworn to protect her. The next few days were a special kind of hell. Arthur's PR machine went into overdrive. He was the perfect, doting husband, photographed bringing Eleanor home from the hospital, a somber, protective hand on her back. The narrative was set. Vance family targeted by unstable stalker. Chloe Jenkins had been arrested for assault, but Arthur's lawyers were already working to have her painted as delusional. Eleanor played her part. She was numb. She sat in their pristine, sterile home, a house she had decorated, a life she had built, and felt like a ghost. Arthur was a whirlwind of damage control. He was on the phone constantly, his voice a smooth, reassuring balm to donors, and a sharp, commanding bark to his staff. With her, he was cold. He slept in the guest room. "I don't want to jostle your injuries," he'd said, not even looking at her. The isolation was suffocating. Dr. Miller had ordered bed rest, which Arthur enforced with suffocating zeal. The baby, Eleanor. We must protect the baby. It was a cage, not a comfort, but the numbness was beginning to wear off, replaced by a slow, simmering anger. The woman who had been assaulted at the Gilded Bean was not the same woman sitting in this silent house. The pain had burned away her naivety. On the third night, Arthur was at another emergency campaign meeting. Eleanor was supposed to be asleep. She wasn't. She was listening. His real voice, the one he used when he thought she wasn't around, was different. He'd been in his study, on the phone. I don't care what I promised, Chloe. You went nuclear. No, you listen to me. You will take the deal. My lawyer will be there. You will sign the NDA. You will say you were obsessed, and I will make sure you get probation. If you fight this, I will bury you. A long pause. Don't say that. Of course, Look, just do this. One last thing for me. For us. We can fix this, but you have to trust me. He was still talking to her, still managing her, still lying to her. Eleanor waited until she heard the front door close. He was gone. She went straight to his study. It was always kept locked, but she knew where he kept the spare key, taped under the heavy, antique globe. His desk was immaculate, but Eleanor wasn't looking for paperwork. She was looking for his other life. In the bottom right drawer, beneath a stack of old campaign files, was a sleek, black burner phone. She knew his password. It was his birthday. Pathetic. This password, however, was different. She tried their anniversary. Nothing. She tried her birthday. Nothing. Her fingers trembled. What would be the password for his secret life? She tried Chloe's name, 0404, CHLOE, on a keypad. No. She tried a different combination. Her birthday, 1017, October 17th. Click, it opened. The sickness rose in her throat. The password to his secret life was Chloe's birthday. The text log was a novel of their affair. Hundreds of messages. She's so cold, baby. You're the only one who understands me. Just wait. After the election, it's just you and me. Sent you a little something. Check your account. But it was the photo gallery that destroyed her. Pictures of them. In her bed. On her sheets. While she was at her parents' house last month. Pictures of them on a vacation to Aruba. The same weekend Arthur had told her he was at a donor retreat. He was smiling in the photos. A real, unguarded smile she hadn't seen directed at her in years. She threw the phone, a small, choked sob escaping her, but her eyes caught something else in the drawer. A manila folder. It wasn't a campaign file. It was from Citywide Mortgage and Loan. She opened it. It was a copy of a finalized second mortgage application. On this house. The house her parents had left to her. Her name was the only one on the original deed. The loan was for $250,000, and at the bottom, her signature. A perfect, fluid Eleanor Vance. She had never seen this document in her life. She had never signed it. It was a forgery. The date on the loan was 2 days ago, the day after the assault. He had used the media storm as a cover, forged her name, and drained the equity from her family home. Why? She went back to the phone. She searched the texts for money and house. She found it. A text from Arthur to Chloe, sent just this morning. It's done. The $250K is in the holding account. That's more than enough for your silence, isn't it? Just sign the NDA. He hadn't been paying for her silence with campaign funds. He had been paying for it with Eleanor's inheritance. He had stolen from his own wife and unborn child to pay off his mistress. The last of her love for him curdled, and died. It was replaced by something cold, hard, and terrifyingly clear. This wasn't a marriage. It was a hostage situation. And as she stood there, in the dark, she remembered the card that had been slipped into her hand by a nurse as she was being discharged. A simple, elegant card, passed to the nurse by a well-wisher. Judge Evelyn Reed, the Women's Council. When you are ready to stop being treated as a problem and start being the solution. Eleanor picked up her own phone. Her fingers, steady now, dialed the number. Judge Reed? This is Eleanor Vance. I'm ready. Judge Evelyn Reed's office was not at the courthouse. It was a discreet, high-ceilinged room on the top floor of the Women's Council building, a place that had more political influence per square foot than City Hall. Evelyn listened, her face impassive, as Eleanor, her voice trembling but resolute, laid out the story. The gaslighting, the threats, the burner phone, and finally, the forged mortgage. She slid the folder across Evelyn's antique mahogany desk. Evelyn reviewed the documents. Her expression didn't change, but a muscle in her jaw tightened. You're certain this is a forgery? I would stake my life on it, Eleanor said. He must have traced it from our marriage certificate or passport. I would never sign my family home over to this. He's a fool, Evelyn said, her voice a low rumble. A vain, arrogant, and foolish man, and that makes him sloppy. Evelyn steepled her fingers. Marcus, she said, tapping an intercom, bring it in. The private investigator from the cafe, Marcus, entered. He was a quiet man who looked more like an accountant than a detective. He placed a much thicker folder on the desk. Mrs. Vance, Evelyn began, what I'm about to tell you does not leave this room. The Women's Council has deep resources. When I saw the assault, I was concerned. Not just for you, but for the ethical integrity of our city's leadership. Arthur Vance was seeking our endorsement. That meant he was already on our radar. She opened Marcus's file. The assault was the least of his crimes. Eleanor watched, stunned, as Evelyn laid out a series of bank statements and incorporation papers. This is the holding company Arthur set up, Evelyn said, pointing to a name, AV Enterprises. And this is the deed to Chloe Jenkins's condo, purchased 6 months ago by that same holding company. And this, Evelyn said, her voice dropping, is the money trail. She showed Eleanor a series of transfers. Arthur has been accepting donations from construction developers who are seeking city contracts. The money goes into a slush fund, then to AV Enterprises, and from there to Chloe's condo, her car, her credit cards. He's not just an adulterer, Eleanor, Evelyn said, her eyes meeting hers. He's a criminal. He's been laundering money. The affair was just sloppy bookkeeping. Eleanor felt a strange, cold calm. The $250,000 from my house. It wasn't just to buy Chloe's silence. No, Evelyn agreed. It was to replenish the slush fund. He must be getting audited, or a donor got nervous. He was robbing his own house to cover his other crimes. Eleanor's mind was racing. Chloe, she knows. She must know. She knows she's a mistress, Evelyn said dismissively. I doubt she knows she's a co-conspirator in felony-level racketeering. She just thinks she's a jilted lover. So what do we do? Eleanor asked. Evelyn Reed finally smiled. It was a thin, dangerous expression. We, my dear, are going to give Arthur Vance exactly what he wants. He wants to be a man of integrity. We're going to give him the platform to prove it. She looked at her calendar. The future of our city gala is this Friday. It's the highlight of the election season. And guess who the keynote speaker is? Arthur, Eleanor breathed. Exactly. He'll be expecting our endorsement that night. It's the one thing he needs to secure the election. He'll be feeling invincible. He'll want me there, Eleanor realized. On his arm, the forgiving wife. It's the perfect PR. He will, Evelyn agreed. And you will be there. You will be radiant. You will be the picture of grace and forgiveness. You will be the bait. And what's the trap? Arthur thinks this is a PR problem. He thinks he can handle you and handle Chloe. He doesn't know there's a third player. He doesn't know about us. Evelyn leaned forward. My team is currently cross-referencing every one of these illegal donations with the city contract proposals. By Friday, we will have an ironclad case for the district attorney. But what about Chloe? Eleanor asked. Ah, yes, Chloe. Evelyn's smile widened. She's volatile, and Arthur is trying to buy her silence with your money. But she's not angry about the money, is she? She's angry about him. She wants him, not the cash. She's a problem, Eleanor said. She's an opportunity, Evelyn corrected. Marcus, make sure Ms. Jenkins receives an anonymous VIP ticket to the gala. And perhaps a copy of that new mortgage. Let's see how she feels knowing her silence was paid for by the wife she hates. Evelyn turned back to Eleanor. This will be public. It will be brutal. Are you prepared for that? Eleanor thought of the scalding coffee. She thought of the terror for her child. She thought of Arthur's cold, furious eyes in the hospital. She thought of her forged signature. She placed a hand on her belly. He threatened my child. He threatened my home. He's not just a bad husband, Judge. He's a cancer. And you don't manage cancer. You cut it out. Evelyn Reed gave a single, sharp nod of approval. Good. Go home, Eleanor. Play the part. Be the forgiving wife. We'll handle the rest. Returning to that house was the hardest thing Eleanor had ever done. She found Arthur in the kitchen, pouring a glass of scotch. He looked exhausted, the lines of stress deep around his eyes. For a split second, she felt a pang of pity. He saw her and his face hardened. Where have you been? I told you to rest. I just needed some air, Eleanor lied, her heart hammering. The doctor said a short walk would be fine. He grunted, swirling the amber liquid. Fine. Well, get your rest. Friday is the gala. It's the most important night of my life, of our lives. We need to be perfect. The gala, Eleanor repeated, as if in a daze. Arthur, after everything, you still want me to. He put the glass down, and finally came to her. He put his hands on her arms, his politician's smile plastered on his face. It didn't reach his eyes. Eleanor, baby, listen. His voice was the smooth, seductive velvet he used on donors. This mess. It's almost over. The polls are stabilizing. People are seeing Chloe for what she is, a crazy, obsessed fan. All we have to do is show them we're strong. We're united. He touched her cheek. She fought the urge to flinch. You, on that stage with me, glowing, pregnant. That's the image. That's family. That's integrity. That's what wins this thing. Can you do that for me? For this family? He was good. He was so good. He was using their unborn child as a prop in his political theatre. This time she smiled back, a mask of her own. Of course, Arthur. You're right. This is bigger than my feelings. It's about our future. The relief that washed over his face was so profound, it was almost comical. He had been terrified she would fight him. That's my girl, he boomed, pulling her into a hug. She stiffened as her bandages pressed against his suit, but she didn't pull away. She endured it. "I won't let you down, Arthur," she whispered into his shoulder. "I knew you wouldn't," he said, patting her back, his mind already on his speech, on the cameras, on the win. Meanwhile, across town, a different scene was unfolding. Chloe Jenkins sat in her sterile, high-rise condo, the cage Arthur had bought her. Her phone rang. Her lawyer, a high-priced man from Arthur's own firm, had been calling all day. She let it go to voicemail. She was staring at a large, express-mailed envelope. No return address. Inside was a single VIP pass to the Future of Our City gala, and a copy of a mortgage document. She didn't understand it at first. It was just numbers. But then she saw the name, Eleanor Vance. She saw the address, their house, and she saw the amount, $250,000. She remembered Arthur's call. "The $250K is in the holding account. Enough for your silence." He hadn't paid her from his money. He hadn't paid her from his vast campaign funds. He had stolen it from his wife. The rage that filled Chloe was so potent, it was almost physical. It wasn't about the money. It was about the insult. He had told her Eleanor was a cold, passionless arrangement. He had told her she was the real wife, the real partner. But in the end, when the chips were down, he was still tethered to Eleanor. He was using Eleanor's money to get rid of her. She, Chloe Jenkins, had been relegated to the status of a common knowledge pest, a problem to be paid off with stolen funds. She looked at the VIP pass. She looked at the forged document. He thought he could buy her. He thought he could bury her. He thought she was just a crazy, obsessed fan. "You want to see crazy, Arthur?" she whispered to the empty room. "I'll show you crazy." She grabbed the VIP pass. She was going to the gala. The ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton was a sea of glittering diamonds and black tuxedos. The Future of Our City gala was the event of the season, and tonight it was Arthur Vance's coronation. Eleanor stood by his side, a vision in a custom-made, empire waist gown of deep sapphire blue. It covered her bandages and accentuated her pregnancy. Her hair was swept up, her makeup flawless. She was the very picture of the wounded but loyal Madonna. "You look stunning, darling," Arthur whispered, his hand possessively on the small of her back. "Just stunning." He was high on the attention, the flashbulbs, the fawning donors. "Only for you, Arthur," Eleanor replied, her voice sweet, her smile painted on. In the back of the room, near the service entrance, Judge Evelyn Reed stood, nursing a glass of sparkling water. She gave a single, subtle nod to Marcus, who was stationed by the audio-visual booth. He nodded back. Everything was in place. "And now," the MC said, "the man we've all been waiting for. A man whose integrity is matched only by his dedication. Please welcome the next City Councilman, Arthur Vance." The room erupted in applause. Arthur kissed Eleanor, a public, performative kiss, and strode to the stage. He was electric. He owned the room. He spoke of family values, of transparency, of a new dawn for our great city. "My family and I," he said, his voice thick with practiced emotion. "We have been tested. We have been attacked by dark, unstable forces. But we are strong. Our love is strong." He gestured to Eleanor, who placed a hand on her heart and smiled at him. The audience ate it up. He was just hitting his crescendo, a story about his grandfather, when the side door of the ballroom burst open. It was Chloe Jenkins. She looked unhinged. Her expensive dress was wrinkled, her hair a mess, her eyes wide and frantic. She was clutching the VIP pass in one hand and the mortgage document in the other. "Liar!" she shrieked. The room went dead silent. Arthur froze. His smile twitched. "Liar!" Chloe screamed again, marching toward the stage. Security! Arthur hissed, trying to signal the guards without looking panicked. You think you can get rid of me? Chloe was halfway down the main aisle now, people scrambling to get out of her way. You think you can pay me off with her money? With stolen money? She brandished the mortgage papers. He's a thief! He's a liar and a thief! 2 large security guards grabbed her, but she was fighting like a wildcat. He promised me. He promised he was leaving her. He told me he loved me. He's a fraud. His whole life is a fraud. Arthur, pale and sweating, stepped to the microphone. He tried to laugh, but it came out as a choke. Ladies and gentlemen, please, my apologies. This is the woman I spoke of. Deeply unwell. Stalking my family. As you can see, she's obsessed. I'm not obsessed, Chloe screamed as the guards dragged her toward the exit. I'm pissed. He's a criminal, Arthur. Tell them about the money. Tell them about the developers. Tell them about AV Enterprises. A new, cold silence fell over the room. That name, AV Enterprises, was not one she should have known. A few donors in the front row shifted, their faces suddenly pale. Arthur's blood ran cold. He had underestimated her. Chloe was dragged from the room, still screaming, "He's a thief!" Arthur was left on stage, his composure shattered, the room staring at him, the word thief hanging in the air. He tried to recover. As I was saying, a terrible situation. But the momentum was broken. The coronation was tainted. And that's when Judge Evelyn Reed made her move. The ballroom was a vacuum, all sound sucked into the void left by Chloe's fading screams. The word thief seemed to hang in the glittering air, a poisonous vapor. Arthur Vance stood frozen on the stage, a rictus of a smile still plastered on his face. It was the smile of a man who had been struck by lightning, still standing but dead inside. A single bead of sweat traced a path from his perfect hairline, down his temple, and over his jaw. He was a statue of his own ruin. He tapped the microphone, the thump-thump echoing like a nervous heartbeat. Ahem. Ladies, gentlemen. He tried for a light, dismissive chuckle. It came out as a wet, gasping sound. My deepest apologies. As you can clearly see, a very, very sick individual. A stalker, as I've said. It's a terrible situation. The price of public life, I suppose. Thank you, Arthur. The voice was not a shout, but it sliced through the room like a diamond cutter. It was Judge Evelyn Reed. She emerged from the shadows at the back of the room, her silver hair a beacon. She did not rush. She walked down the main aisle with the slow, deliberate, unshakable pace of destiny itself. Every eye in the room, the donors, the rivals, the press, swiveled from the train wreck on the stage to the advancing power. Arthur's face flooded with a pathetic, desperate relief. She was coming to save him. The chairwoman of the Women's Council, the ultimate endorsement. Judge, he breathed into the mic, his hand outstretched. Judge Reed, thank you. This is an outrage, as you can see. Your support. She ascended the steps, her grey suit an impenetrable armor, and walked not to him, but to the main podium. She gently pushed his hand, still grasping the microphone, to the side, and took control of the stage. You're right, Mr. Vance, she said, her voice now amplified, cold and clear. It is an outrage. She let the words hang. Arthur's smile faltered. That wasn't how she was supposed to finish the sentence. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen, Evelyn said, her gaze sweeping the stunned crowd. Mr. Vance is correct. This is a terrible situation, an untenable situation, and while Ms. Jenkins's delivery was theatrical, she has, in fact, brought up several very important points. Judge, Arthur hissed, his voice a panicked whisper. "This is not the time or the place. This is a private matter." "Your private matters, Mr. Vance," Evelyn said, turning the full force of her icy fury on him, "have become a matter of public corruption. And that is my time and my place." She gave a single sharp nod to the back of the room, to Marcus in the AV booth, the massive screen behind them, still displaying Arthur's Family Integrity logo, flickered and went black. "Ms. Jenkins," Evelyn continued, "called Mr. Vance a thief. A very strong word. The Women's Council, however, does not deal in strong words. We deal in documented facts. We believe in checking the receipts." Click. The screen lit up. It was not a photo. It was a document. "This," Evelyn said, as if lecturing a slow student, "is the Articles of Incorporation for a holding company, AV Enterprises, founded by Mr. Vance 6 months ago. His name is the only one on it." Click. The screen changed. "And this is a wire transfer for $150,000 into that account from Harborview Development. They are, as you all know, the front runner for the new City Marina contract." A low, dangerous murmur started in the front rows. A prominent developer, a Mr. Silas Croft, turned a shade of pale green. Click. "And this, $75,000 from Titan Concrete, also bidding." Click. "And $100,000 from Apex Construction, also bidding. This is campaign finance." Arthur finally found his voice, high-pitched and thready. "It's all legal. It's a donor fund. It's normal." "Is it?" Evelyn's eyebrow arched. "Let's see where this campaign money went. Shall we?" Click. The screen now showed a list of expenditures. "This," she said, pointing, "is an $80,000 down payment for a condominium at 1200 Ocean Drive. The resident, a Miss Chloe Jenkins." Click. "This is a lease agreement for a 2025 Maserati. The driver, Miss Chloe Jenkins." Click. "And this and these are 3 years of credit card statements. Chanel, Cartier, vacations to Aruba, all paid from AV Enterprises, all for Ms. Chloe Jenkins." Evelyn turned back to Arthur. "This isn't campaign finance, Mr. Vance. This is felony racketeering. It is laundering bribes. You weren't funding a campaign. You were funding an affair." "Lies! Slander!" Arthur shrieked, lurching for the microphone. I'll sue you all." "I haven't gotten to the fraud yet," Evelyn said, her voice dropping, silencing him instantly. "You see, Mr. Vance, your slush fund must have run dry. You got sloppy. You needed to replenish it. Perhaps to buy Ms. Jenkins's silence after the unfortunate coffee incident at the Gilded Bean." Click. The screen showed a new document, the second mortgage. This document was filed 2 weeks ago. A second mortgage for $250,000 drawn against the Vance family home. Arthur actually laughed, a single hysterical bark. "Yes, exactly. My wife and I, we had a family expense. We took this out together. It proves our unity." He was grasping, trying to spin, but he had just walked into the last, most brutal trap. "Is that so?" Evelyn asked quietly. "Because our records show the house is, and always has been, in her name. It was her family's inheritance." Click. The screen changed one last time. It was split. On the left, Eleanor's beautiful, flowing signature from her passport. On the right, the cramped, shaky signature on the mortgage document. "Our forensic accountants," Evelyn said, "who are the very best in the business, have confirmed what every person in this room can see. The signature on the loan is a high quality, but nonetheless amateur forgery." The room was spinning. The air was thin. Arthur Vance was suffocating on stage. He looked wildly around, his eyes, those of a cornered rat, searching for one last escape. And they found her, Eleanor, still sitting at the front table, a statue of sapphire blue, his last, best prop. "Eleanor!" he shrieked. It was not a command, it was a plea. Tell them it's not true. Tell them you signed it. Tell them we're a family. Tell them you love me." Every head in the room, 1,000 shocked faces, swiveled to the pregnant wife. Eleanor Vance stood up. She did not look hurried. She did not look afraid. She did not look like a victim. She looked inevitable. She placed her napkin on the table, and with a poise that defied the chaos, she walked to the stage. She ascended the steps. Arthur, weeping now, held his hand out to her. She walked right past him. She walked past Judge Reed. She took the microphone from the podium, her small hand steady. The room was tomb silent. She turned, not to the crowd, but to her husband. "I'm here to tell them the truth, Arthur." Her voice was clear. It was strong. It was the voice of a woman who had been burned to the ground and had risen from her own ashes. "The truth is," she said, her eyes locking on his, "I did love you, more than my own life. I believed in you. I believed in us. I believed the man I married was the man you pretended to be." She placed a hand gently on her own belly. "The truth is, this is your child, a child you were willing to sacrifice for this." "No, Eleanor. No, I did it for us. For our future," he whimpered. "You did it for you," she cut him off, her voice a whip. "You used my love. You used my loyalty. You used this baby as a prop for your campaign, and when that wasn't enough, you stole my inheritance. You stole your own child's future to pay off your bookkeeping." She turned, just slightly, to the audience, to the women in the audience. "He told me I was emotional. He told me my feelings were a problem for the campaign. He told me to be quiet and play the part of the good wife, all while he was forging my name and bleeding my family dry." Her voice trembled, but with a pure, white-hot rage. "And when I was assaulted, when that woman, his woman, threw scalding coffee on my pregnant body." She looked at Arthur, her eyes filling, not with tears of sadness, but of fury. "He didn't ask about the baby. He didn't ask if I was okay. He stormed into my hospital room and yelled, 'Do you have any idea what you've done to my Poles?' A single, collective gasp of horror, sharp and unified, echoed through the ballroom. He wanted me to be the wounded, forgiving Madonna. He wanted me to stand by him tonight. He wanted to show you all integrity." She reached into her small, sapphire clutch. "Well, here it is, Arthur. Here is the integrity." She pulled out a single folded piece of paper. "This is a court-filed restraining order, citing domestic financial abuse, coercion, and felony-level forgery. It was granted by a judge this afternoon." She turned, her gaze moving to the grand entrance at the back of the room. As if summoned by her words, the 2 large oak doors swung open with a smooth, hydraulic hiss. 2 uniformed police officers, flanked by 2 stone-faced detectives, stepped inside. They did not look at the crowd. They began to walk, their footsteps heavy and measured, down the main aisle. "And this," Eleanor said, her voice ringing with power, "is my official, sworn and signed statement to the district attorney's office, handed over this morning." Arthur saw them. The last of his arrogance, his charm, his self, crumbled. He was just a hollow, terrified boy. "No, no, no, no. Eleanor, please, don't do this. Think of the baby. We can fix this. I can fix this. I'll give the money back. I'll resign. Please, don't. He lunged for her, his face a mask of primal terror, grabbing her arm. "Don't let them. Get your hands off her! It was one of the detectives, now on the stage, his voice a low growl. In one swift motion, the officers were on him. They wrenched his hands behind his back. The sharp, metallic, click, click, click of the handcuffs was deafeningly loud over the sound system. "Arthur Vance," the lead officer stated, "you are under arrest for financial fraud, forgery, and public corruption." "Eleanor!" he screamed, a pathetic animal wail as they began to drag him off the stage. "Don't let them! I love you! I love you!" The flashes of 100 cameras, once his adoring fans, now exploded in his face, documenting his final disgrace, turning his coronation into a perp walk. Eleanor stood tall, tears of pure, unadulterated release streaming down her face. She watched him go. "No, Arthur," she whispered, her voice final. "You don't. You don't even know what that word means." She stepped back from the podium, her hand on her child, and let Evelyn Reed take her place. The judge surveyed the shell-shocked room. She smoothed the front of her suit. "And officers," she called out, her voice sharp. "I believe you'll find a Ms. Chloe Jenkins still in the lobby. She is being detained by hotel security. She has an outstanding warrant for aggravated assault. The Women's Council has the unedited, high-definition security footage from the Gilded Bean. We will be pressing for the maximum sentence." She gave a slight, satisfied smile. "We do not condone that kind of behavior." She looked out at the stunned donors, the frantic reporters, the silent, gaping guests. "The Women's Council," she said, her voice like steel, "believes in protecting all families, especially from the men who claim to represent them." She glanced at her watch. "My apologies for the delay. The bar is now open. Please, enjoy the rest of your evening." 6 months later, Eleanor Vance gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby girl. She named her Hope, not in a flimsy, wishful way, but in a strong, powerful one. The kind of hope that isn't found, but built. The trial, or trials, were a media circus. Arthur and Chloe, their alliance long dead, turned on each other with the ferocity of cornered animals. Arthur Vance was found guilty on all counts: racketeering, fraud, forgery, and embezzlement. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Chloe Jenkins, facing the unassailable video evidence from the cafe and the testimony of Judge Reed herself, was found guilty of aggravated assault. She was sentenced to 2 years, with 5 years probation, and ordered to pay restitution for Eleanor's medical bills. Judge Evelyn Reed oversaw the special election to fill the now disgraced Arthur's seat, which was won by a mother's rights activist, the first candidate ever to be fully endorsed by the Women's Council. And Eleanor? She sold the house, the one Arthur had tainted. With the proceeds and the hefty divorce settlement she won, she started the Hope Foundation, a non-profit, funded in partnership with the Women's Council, to provide legal aid to women trapped in situations of domestic financial abuse. The story ends where it began. The Gilded Bean. Eleanor is there, sipping an iced coffee, her baby girl gurgling in a stroller beside her. The door jingles. It's Judge Reed. "Eleanor," Evelyn says, smiling, sitting down. "Evelyn?" Eleanor smiles back. "You made it." "I always do," the judge says, winking, as she motions to the barista. "I always do." What an ending. It just goes to show you that the truth, no matter how hard you try to bury it, always, always finds its way to the surface. The smallest act of cruelty can unravel the biggest lies. This story is a powerful reminder that the most dangerous people are often the ones closest to us. But the strongest allies can be the ones you least expect. Eleanor's journey from a victim to a victor is a testament to the power of a mother's strength and the steel will of a woman who has nothing left to lose. What did you think of Arthur's downfall? Was it karma? Was it justice? Or was it just a long time coming? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you loved this story and you want to see more real-life drama, make sure you hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel and ring that bell so you never miss a single story. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next one.